Hello friends and welcome back to a new video. Today I'm going to be following the process of one of my favorite artists here on YouTube, Cosmic Spectrum Art. So let's start with the first thing, which is to look for a reference photo because I have no idea what to draw, and I decided on this picture of IU. I'm not necessarily aiming to make it similar to her, but just using it as a base for the pose. As you can see, Cosmic Spectrum art sketch is very detailed compared to mine. Like, I never put that much effort into the sketch because in my mind it's just gonna be erased anyways, which tend to cause me to have very wonky drawings by the end. I'm noticing also that she is kinda shading her sketch. I usually don't do that. I guess it's because she's defining it more because she's working from her imagination. Meanwhile, I rely a lot on reference because I still can't draw from imagination. I'm not there yet, but I will be. She also mentioned that she was not happy 100% with her sketch and she advises to actually move on from the sketch before it's too perfect because it's hard to replicate a perfect sketch on the inking stage. This definitely reminds me of that meme. I mean, we can all relate to it. And if you're wondering why I'm actually following her process, it's because if you've seen any of my previous time-lapse art videos, you'd know that I do struggle with my digital art process. For example, in this video, I painted everything in one layer, as if it's traditional painting. And after watching some other artists' processes, I was able to understand the use of the layers, but there are still some stuff that I struggle with. And her videos seem to be very beginner friendly and she gives a very good explanation and it was very easy for me to follow along. So the sketch took me longer than I ever expected, about 25 minutes. I wasn't very happy with the face, to be honest. It was very square, especially in the jaw, and I had trouble drawing the other eye. It was small, as you can tell. Moving on to the inking stage. She flipped the canvas and started to ink the face. Her inking is very clean and very beautiful. She uses various thick and thin lines. It creates such a beautiful contrast. She's making the lines thicker around the eyes and the shadows. She also mentioned that it's good to vary the groundness of the lines in order to give the viewer somewhere to rest their eyes. Which I didn't do at all because the inking was very hard for me. My strokes were very shaky and ugly. I kept zooming in on the face. I kept flipping the canvas. I mean, you might get like a seizure from how much I kept like flipping the canvas in order to get like the right strokes. Like I kept going back and forth trying to fix the pressure sensitivity on my pen because sometimes I get like very thick lines and sometimes they're very thin. It's funny how I'm zooming in to fix like the small details even though like the general shapes are very wrong. But I did really try my best. I just need more practice when it comes to line art. And I'm currently doing Drawbox, which really focuses on doing very confident strokes, like one mark with your pen. So I kinda feel like I'm getting better at it. I just need to practice it more digitally. For the hair, I didn't really know where to place the lines compared to her hair, which is very flowy and it had a lot of lines. Mine had only a few ones because I didn't really know what to do. Mine kinda looks very stiff, like it doesn't look like hair, it looks like it's made of clay. And I kept telling myself, you know what, I'm gonna be fixing it on the coloring stage, which, spoiler alert, didn't happen. Her hands remind me of that fruit, what is called, the Buddha's hand. It's funny to me how I'm on a level where I could tell by looking at something that it's wrong, but my abilities cannot help me to make it better. The other eye just kept feeling very odd to me, and I tried to change it and make it bigger, and tilled it a little bit, which made it just look more worse. I wasn't really happy with the lines, but I decided to just move on before I break the undo button. Now let's add on some colors. And I wasted so much time on this. For the flat colors, I think it's easier if you have Clip Art Studio. I think it has this feature that makes it easy to color without worrying about going over the edges. But with Krita, I think there is a similar thing called colorizing mask, but I don't really know how to use it. I usually select the area I want to color manually because the automatic selection doesn't work for me. So but this time I just decided to color it manually as if it's a coloring book. And since I'm really bad at picking colors that go well together, I always rely on these color palettes. And weirdly enough, all my last drawings were using the same color palette, like I used different shades of red and then the green for some contrast. I feel like this whole thing took longer than it should, and I should definitely find like another way to color. I was also feeling that like my colors are either too dark or too saturated and made the whole picture fit a bit crowded. Now let's move on to a step that I don't really actually pay that much attention to, which is coloring the lines. I usually just lower the opacity of my line art sketch. And as you can see from her painting, this step really makes the painting come really nice together. It also makes the lines look less harsh and more cohesive with the whole picture. And the way that I did this was by creating a clip-on layer for the ink layers and coloring the lines in. I didn't really know which colors to pick, but I just made sure they were slightly darker than the flat colors. She also added some blush and some makeup around the eyes, which made the character look a little bit more alive, and so did I. Finally, for the shadows, she is using a multiply layer with a lower opacity using this dark red color for the shading. Previously, I always used purple to shade. I guess that depends on where the character is and where does the light reflect. And she is using a solid brush when she's putting down the shapes for the shadows on the face and the hair and the clothes all at the same time. Then she goes back and blend it with this blending brush. She stays on the same layer, but she makes multiple passes to darken the shadows, and the brush she uses for blending leaves some very tiny gaps, which gives a very beautiful texture. I tried to find like a similar blending brush to hers, but I couldn't, so I tried to create one based on this textured brush, but it was moving the paint around way too much. And I find myself worrying whether I'm blending way too much and my shadows aren't defined anymore, and the fact that my unblended shadows look like dirt on her face. Because if you look at her painting, you will see that there are some very blended shadows and there are some sharp edged ones, which creates a very beautiful contrast. I tried to do a similar thing, but I found it hard to find the right placement for the shadows. I tried to imagine that the light source is from the left, so the shadows are going to be in the place blocked by the light, such as behind her nose, underneath her bangs, and the other cheek that is facing away from the light. I left the hair pretty minimal because, as I said before, I didn't define it well during the inking stage, so this is the result. She also adds another multiply layer to even darken the shadows a little bit more. To be honest, I don't know how to feel about these shadows. Somehow they are too dark and too light at the same time. My values are definitely wrong. I feel like there isn't like a smooth gradient, like it goes from light to dark very fast, like there aren't any correct midtones, I guess. I get really angry at myself for focusing on the details even though like the whole thing is wrong. Now for the final stage, which is the paint over. So she made a new layer and started adding details like small highlights on the nose and more shadows and some saturation here and there. She also added some hair strands. And I tried to do a similar thing with less details because at this stage I was so done with this painting. I just added a few highlights using white, then I blend it, then I do it again until I think it's okay. And I definitely didn't give the hair any attention. Honestly, I didn't like it since the inking stage, so I didn't really bother to do anything about it. But I guess no matter how ugly your drawing is, the highlights really make things pop. Like, it does really make the eyes look better if you add just like one white dot in them. And I was wondering why my lines appear to be darker even though I painted over them, and I guess that's because of the multiply layer. At this stage, I started to notice how anatomically incorrect her face is. The other eye, the nose, the shape of the mouth. I usually thought that I'm really good at drawing mouths, but look at this. It doesn't look right. I was trying to fix her mouth by adding more saturation to it, adding some juicy highlights. It didn't work. The shape was wrong since the start. And I can't help but noticing that the jaw looks like a Nike logo. I can't believe that this video turned from following my favorite artist to roasting myself for 10 minutes. Honestly speaking, even though the drawing doesn't look perfect or nice, I think it's better than the last ones that I made, so there is some improvement, and I definitely need more practice, and with practice, things will get better. And if you like to see me progress and improve my art in the near future, make sure to subscribe and to like this video. Thank you. See you in the next one.